There have been a lot of NBA teams that have come and gone that have been great for their time, but there is only a few teams that have been regarded as the greatest teams of all time. So today, we're going to be discussing two of those teams and what would happen if they ever were to have played a 7-game series. Today, we're going to be highlighting the 1986 Boston Celtics and the 1996 Chicago Bulls, two of the most dominant teams of all time. Let's get it. To kick things off, we're going to start with the 85-86 Boston Celtics. Going into their 40th season in the NBA, they finished with the best record in the league at 67-15, including a 40-1 record, 37-1 at the Boston Garden, and 3-0 at the Hartford Civic Center. Those 40 wins set an NBA record which would only be matched by the San Antonio Spurs in 2016. Widely regarded among the greatest teams in NBA history, their 67 wins were only one win shy of tying their franchise record of 68 wins, set in 1972 and 73. And it would also tie for the 7th all-time for total wins by a team in a single season. Larry Bird would go on to win his 3rd consecutive MVP award, Bill Walton would win the 6th Man of the Year award, and the team was anchored by the Big Three front court of Bird, Kevin McHale, and Robert Parrish, which is frequently ranked amongst the best front courts in the NBA history. Going into the playoffs, the Celtics swept the Chicago Bulls, ironically, in 3 games in the first round, then defeated the Atlanta Hawks in 5 games in the semifinals before sweeping the Milwaukee Bucks in 4 games in the conference finals to reach the NBA Finals for a 3rd consecutive year. In the NBA Finals, the Celtics faced off against the Houston Rockets in a rematch of the 1981 NBA Finals, which the Celtics won in 6 games. The Celtics would go on to win their 16th championship, defeating the Houston Rockets in 6 games in the NBA Finals, and won 82 combined regular season and playoff games, a record that stood until the Chicago Bulls racked up 87 combined wins en route to a title. Switching gears to the 1995-96 Chicago Bulls, this would be their 30th season in the NBA, during which they would go on to acquire the controversial all-star forward and rebound specialist Dennis Rodman from the San Antonio Spurs. Widely regarded as the greatest team in NBA history, the 1995-96 Bulls were named one of the top 10 teams in NBA history, in which the Celtics were included during the celebration of the league's 50th anniversary in 1996. The team set the record for most wins in the NBA regular season, in which they won the championship, finishing with 72 wins and 10 losses. The regular season record would also go on to be broken in 2015-2016 by the Golden State Warriors. The Bulls started 37-0 at home, part of a then NBA record 44-game win streak that included games from the 94-95 season. Their 33 road wins were the most in NBA history until the 2015-2016 Warriors won 34 road games. The season was the best 3-loss start in NBA history, starting at 41-3, including an 18-game winning streak for the team. Michael Jordan and Scottie Pippen also would go on to be selected as the 1996 All-Star Game in San Antonio, with head coach Phil Jackson coaching the Eastern Conference. This would be the first team in that time to win 70 games in the NBA title in the same year. This would also be one of the most accomplished years for the Chicago Bulls. Phil Jackson would go on to win NBA Coach of the Year. Michael Jordan would be All-NBA First Team, All-Star Game MVP, NBA MVP, NBA Finals MVP, NBA All-Defensive First Team, the regular season leader in field goals and attempts and total points and scoring average for the year. Scottie Pippen will be All-NBA First Team, All-NBA Defensive First Team. Dennis Rodman will be All-Defensive First Team, regular season leader in rebounds, offensive rebounds, and rebound rating. Tony Kukoc will be the 6th Man of the Year, while Jerry Krause will be named NBA Executive of the Year. So now that we have broken down statistics for both of the teams, it's all about who you want. It's all about who you choose. It's about your favorite for the most part, because the biggest thing for me in regards to this conversation as to who I would pick in a 7-game series, both of these teams are evenly matched. Now, a lot of people will say that Bird already swept Jordan before, but I do think the games would go a lot different with the team that he had in the 95-96 season. That team was well more polished, better role players. Scottie and Jordan at that time were basically playing at an all-star level because they both were selected to the all-star game at that time. The Celtics team itself was a monster at home, but that Bulls team was a monster on the road. So it all would come down to, because I feel like both teams could win at home. I feel like it would be difficult. I feel like they would split those games. If Boston went to Chicago, I think they would lose the games in Chicago. I do think the Bulls might lose the games and most likely would lose the games in Boston. It would come down to who can pull off a road win. Now, I can't sit here and say that either team would have an advantage over the other one, because I just don't believe that's the case because of how well-rounded both teams were. And just like take it to the count, I get it. Boston had the like their record at home was flawless, but the Bulls' record overall was just better. Like in their season, it was better. They won more games, they lost less games. And I do think it comes down to your preference. I do think it comes down to who you like, who you would pick. I do think it's going 7. I don't think anybody's getting swept, nor do I think it's going to be like a 4-2 outcome. If you put all of them in their primes, because now another thing that I want to drop in there, as good as Boston was at home, Chicago was flawless at home in the playoffs. In the 95-96 season, they didn't lose a single game in the playoffs. As far as home record, they were 10-0. So it all comes down to your preference. I don't think there's a wrong answer or a right answer. I think it comes down to, because I feel like in a 7-game series, both teams could win. Both teams could beat each other in a 7-game series, and it just depends on who plays better in the games. At that point in time, Jordan's team was more developed, more as well-rounded as it had ever been. Like, for every answer that Boston has, Chicago has one. And it may sound like I'm leaning towards Chicago. Yes, it is the team that I grew up with. That's the team that I grew up with. But just being fully transparent, that Boston team could run you out the building just as fast as that Chicago team could. So yeah, I think overall, if I had to pick one, I can't pick one. I'm gonna be honest with you. Just leave in the comment section below. The reason why I can't pick one is just because I like both teams, bro. Like, I'm not gonna lie. I'm not gonna even sugarcoat it. I like and enjoy both teams. I think they both bring a different aspect as far as like how they played the game. You can look at Boston team and see that they were more facilitative. They always look for the open person versus like Michael and Scottie being the two dominant team. Like, they were the most dominant players on the team. Not like Larry Bird wasn't the most dominant player on the team, but Larry Bird was more pass friendly than Michael Jordan was. Because like you said, at the time in 95-96, Jordan was the scoring leader. He was the attempt leader. He basically was the engine for that team. But the parts that were on that Bulls team were phenomenal. Like, I think Parrish would have problems on the boards against Dennis. Dennis would have problems on the boards against Parrish. Michael and Larry kind of cancel each other out. Scottie would guard McHale. From that point, it's all about the other pieces around you. Dennis Johnson, Ron Harper's, the Luke Longleys, the Tony Kukocs, the Steve Kerrs. A lot of those players, like I said, and then like you said, now you're talking about, you know what I'm saying, Walton off the bench. Then you got all other players. Like, bro, you got so many players. Danny Ainge, all of them off of the bench. Like, these are players that can come in. And I'm not going to play around with it. The bench on Boston was crazy. Like, they could do work. So I don't think it's an easy question to answer as far as who would win in the 7-game series. I think it comes down to who makes the plays. Now, we do know, like, Larry is known for making big boy plays, but we also know Michael for making big boy plays as well. Larry might be more clutch than Michael, but at the same time, we watched Michael hit clutch shots to win championships too. So it's all about your preference. Let me know in the comment section below. Who would you pick? For me personally, I can't make a choice because I like both teams equally. I'm not going to sit here and do that. I'm not even going to pick a side. I'm going to let the viewers pick their sides and see who, you know what I'm saying, who they would take. I do know I'm probably going to get an overwhelming response from the Boston community, the Larry Bird community, because I know how they feel because I made a lot of videos on him. So let me know, man. In a 7-game series, it's going 7. If I can give a definitive answer, it's going 7. Larry and Jordan are gonna have a legendary, like how when we talk about how Dominique Wilkins and them had legendary games. I think that would be the same outcome. I think that they would fill it up. I think Larry would probably average about 30 plus. I think Jordan would average about 30 plus. It would all come down to the role players, bro. But it has been your boy Carl from Golden Grimmon Productions. Until the next one.